You tell yourself you're over it. Not in a dramatic way. Not like everything is fully resolved. Not like it suddenly stopped mattering. Just, quietly. In the way you don't bring it up anymore. In the way it doesn't come out in conversation. In the way you can go through your day, without directly thinking about it. And that feels like progress. Because before, it was louder. More present. More immediate. It showed up constantly. In your thoughts. In your reactions. In your mood. You couldn't ignore it. You couldn't move past it. It was right there. All the time. But now, it's different. It's quieter. More distant. Less obvious. So naturally, you assume something has changed. That you've moved on. That you've processed it. That you're over it. Because if it was still affecting you, you would feel it the same way. You would think about it. You would talk about it. You would react to it. But you don't. Not like before. So it must be gone. Or at least, less important. That's the conclusion you reach. Not because you examined it deeply. Because it feels true on the surface. You sit there. Going through your day. Everything looks normal. Nothing stands out. Nothing pulls you back the way it used to. And that reinforces it. This idea, it's over. I'm fine. I've moved on. But look closer. Not at what you say. At what still happens underneath. The moments that don't quite make sense. The reactions that feel slightly off. The way something small can shift your mood more than it should. You're in a normal situation. Nothing unusual. Nothing intense. And something about it feels heavier than it needs to be. You don't stop to question it. You just feel it. And move on. You sit there. And it happens again. A different moment. Different context. But a similar shift. A slight hesitation. A subtle pullback. A reaction that feels just a little stronger than the situation calls for. And you don't connect it. Because it doesn't look connected. It doesn't feel like it's coming from the same place. It just feels like, that's how I reacted. That's how I felt. And you accept it. Without tracing it back. Without asking where it came from. Because on the surface, there's nothing to trace. You're not thinking about it. You're not revisiting it. You're not talking about it. So it must not be related. That's the assumption. And it feels reasonable. But something is still there. Something familiar. Something that doesn't fully belong to the present moment. You sit with that. And the truth starts to shift. You didn't get over it. You got used to not expressing it. That line lands differently. Because it separates two things that look the same from the outside. Expression, and impact. Expression is visible. It shows up in your words. Your reactions. Your behavior. So when that disappears, it looks like healing. It looks like progress. It looks like something has been resolved. But resolution isn't about visibility. It's about impact. And impact doesn't disappear just because you stop showing it. You can remove something from your words, and still carry it in your system. You can stop talking about it, and still have it shape how you feel. You can silence it externally, while it continues internally. And that's exactly what happened. Not all at once. Gradually. Quietly. You didn't decide, I'm going to suppress this. You just stopped going there. Stopped bringing it up. Stopped engaging with it. And over time, that silence started to feel like distance. Like you were moving away from it. Like it was becoming less important. You lean back slightly. And the next layer becomes clearer. The absence of expression created the illusion of resolution. Because nothing was being activated anymore. Nothing was being revisited. Nothing was being felt the same way. So it must have changed. But it didn't. Not at the level that matters. You sit there. And now the pattern becomes harder to ignore. It didn't leave. It relocated. From something visible, to something internal. From something you think about, to something you operate from. From something you can point to something that feels like you. And that's why you don't question it. Because it doesn't feel separate anymore. It doesn't feel like that thing from before. It feels like, this is just how I am. But it isn't. It's something you never fully processed. Something you moved past externally, without moving through internally. And those are not the same. Moving past something means your behavior changes. You stop talking about it. You stop engaging with it. You stop revisiting it. It looks like distance. It looks like progress. It looks like you've moved on. But moving through something means something else entirely. It means it no longer has control over your internal responses. Not your words. Not your behavior. Your reactions. Your interpretations. Your baseline. And that's the part that didn't change. You sit there. And the gap becomes visible now. On the outside, it's gone. On the inside, it's still active. Quietly. Consistently. Without asking for your attention. And that's why this is harder to see. Because nothing obvious is happening. Nothing is pulling you back. Nothing is demanding to be looked at. It just sits there. In the background. Integrated. Subtle. But still shaping everything. You lean forward slightly. And the truth settles in. You're not over it. You just stopped talking about it. Once you see that you stopped expressing it, something else becomes harder to ignore. Because if it didn't leave, where did it go? That's the question. And the answer isn't obvious. Because it didn't stay where you can see it. It didn't stay where you can point to it. It didn't stay as a clear thought. Or a memory. Or something you consciously return to. It moved. Quietly. Gradually. Out of view. Into something else. Unresolved things don't leave. They relocate. That line changes how you understand everything. Because now it's not about whether it's still there. It's about how it's there. You sit there. And the shift becomes clearer. It used to be something you thought about. Something you replayed. Something you revisited. Something you could feel directly. Now, it doesn't show up that way. It shows up differently. In ways that don't look connected. In ways that feel like they belong to the present. You don't remember it. You react from it. That's the difference. And it's easy to miss. Because when something becomes a reaction, it stops feeling like something external. It starts feeling like you. Your instinct. Your personality. Your way of responding. You lean back slightly. And the pattern sharpens. You're in a situation. Something happens. And you respond quickly. Automatically. Without thinking about it. And the response feels natural. It feels like, that's just how I am. That's just how I react. That's just what made sense in that moment. But look closer. At the speed of it. At the intensity of it. At how early it shows up. Before you've fully processed what's happening. Before you've even decided what you think. Something is already there. Shaping your response. Guiding how you interpret it. Guiding how you feel about it. Guiding what you do next. You sit there. And now another layer becomes visible. It doesn't show up as memory. It shows up as interpretation. The way you read a situation. The way you fill in gaps. The assumptions you make before you have enough information. You see something neutral, and it feels loaded. You hear something unclear, and it feels specific. You experience something small, and it carries more weight than it should. And you don't question it. Because it feels immediate. It feels true. It feels like a direct response to what's happening. But it isn't. It's coming from somewhere else. You lean forward slightly. And the mechanism becomes clearer. What used to be a conscious experience, has become a background system. Something that runs automatically. Something that processes before you do. Something that shapes your experience before you can see it clearly. You don't notice it. Because it's not separate anymore. It doesn't feel like, that thing from before is affecting me. It feels like, this is just what this situation is. You sit there longer. And the pattern expands. It's not just how you interpret things. It's how you respond. You hesitate earlier. You pull back faster. You soften what you want to say. You hold something in, before you even fully feel it. Not because you're choosing to. Because something is already guiding you. Something already decided what is safer. What is easier. What is less likely to create friction. And that decision happens before you're aware of it. You lean back slowly. And another realization settles in. You're not remembering it anymore. You're living from it. That line lands deeper. Because it removes distance. It removes the idea that this is something in the past. Something you can separate from. Something you can deal with later. It's not behind you. It's built into how you move through things now. You sit there. And now the system becomes harder to ignore. Because it's everywhere. In small ways. Subtle ways. Ways that don't stand out. Ways that feel normal. You read more into things than you used to. You react a little faster than necessary. You protect yourself earlier than the situation calls for. You avoid certain conversations. Certain topics. Certain directions. Not consciously. Not deliberately. Just, naturally. As if that's how you've always been. But it isn't. It's something that formed. Something that adapted. Something that adjusted based on what you went through. You lean forward again. And the weight of that becomes clearer. Because now it's not just about what happened. It's about what it became. It became part of your system. Part of your baseline. Part of how you move through things. And because it's integrated, it's harder to question. Harder to see. Harder to separate. You sit there longer. And another layer becomes undeniable. You don't have to think about it for it to affect you. You don't have to remember it for it to shape your behavior. You don't have to talk about it for it to still be active. Because it's no longer something you engage with. It's something you operate from. And that's why it feels like it's gone. Because you're not interacting with it anymore. You're expressing it. Through your reactions. Through your patterns. Through the way you move through things without realizing why. You lean back slowly. And the final layer of this chapter settles in. It didn't leave. It just stopped looking like something separate from you. And that's what makes it harder to see. By now, you can see that it didn't leave. You can see that it relocated. That it moved out of visibility, and into something quieter. More constant. More integrated. But this is where it becomes harder to ignore. Because it doesn't just exist in the background. It shows up. In how you move through things. Not as memory. Not as something you think about. As behavior. As reaction. As pattern. You sit there. And at first, it doesn't look connected. It just looks like how you are. How you respond. How you navigate situations. But look closer. At the small shifts. The ones you don't question. The ones that feel automatic. The ones that happen before you've had time to think. You're in a conversation. Something comes up. A moment where you could say what you actually think. And there's a pause. Not a big one. Not something obvious. Just a slight hesitation. A split second where something holds back. Where something adjusts. And then, you say something else. Softer. Safer. Less direct. You don't analyze it. You don't question it. It just feels like, that's how I chose to say it. But the choice happened before. You were fully aware of it. You sit there. And it happens again. Different situation. Different context. Same pattern. You feel something clearly. But you don't express it fully. You reduce it. Translate it. Filter it. Before it becomes visible. Not because you decided to hide it. Because something in you already moved in that direction. You lean back slightly. And the next layer becomes clearer. It's not just what you say. It's what you don't say. The things that never fully form. The reactions that never fully surface. The thoughts that get softened before they can take shape. And over time, that becomes normal. You don't even register what didn't happen. Only what did. You sit there. And now another pattern becomes visible. It shows up in how you interpret things. The way you read situations. The way you fill in gaps. The way you assign meaning before there's enough information. You see something neutral, and it doesn't feel neutral. You hear something unclear, and it feels specific. You notice a small shift, and it carries more weight than it should. And you respond to that weight. Not to what actually happened. You don't pause and think, is this really what this is? It already feels true. Already feels defined. Already feels like something you understand. But that understanding didn't come from the moment. It came from somewhere else. You lean forward slightly. And the mechanism sharpens. It's not just interpretation. It's protection. The speed at which you protect yourself. How early it happens. How little it takes to trigger it. You pull back faster. You guard yourself sooner. You limit what you show. Before anything has actually gone wrong. Before anything has actually happened. You're already adjusting. Already reducing. Already controlling the outcome. You sit there. And now the pattern becomes undeniable. You avoid things. Not obviously. Not dramatically. Subtly. You avoid certain conversations. Certain topics. Certain directions. Certain people. Not because you decided to. Because something in you doesn't move toward them anymore. You don't call it avoidance. You call it preference. You call it instinct. You call it knowing what you want. But it's not that simple. Because what you want has already been shaped. By something you never fully processed. You lean back slowly. And another layer settles in. It shows up in what you tolerate. What you let pass. What you don't react to. Even when something feels off. Even when something should matter more. You lower the response. You minimize it. You let it go. Not because it doesn't affect you. Because something in you doesn't allow it to expand. You sit there longer. And now the system becomes clearer. This isn't random. This isn't personality. This is pattern. Pattern built from something unresolved. Something that didn't complete. Something that didn't move through you the way it needed to. And now, it's everywhere. Not in one big way. In hundreds of small ones. Micro-adjustments. Micro-protections. Micro-decisions that happen before you're aware of them. You lean forward again. And the weight of that becomes undeniable. Because now, it's not just something you carry. It's something that runs you. Quietly. Consistently. Without needing your attention. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to revisit it. It's already there. Shaping how you move. How you respond. How you interpret. How you protect yourself. You sit there. And now the hardest part becomes clear. Because none of this feels foreign. None of this feels separate. It all feels like you. Your instincts. Your habits. Your personality. But it isn't entirely that. Part of it is something else. Something you never fully processed. Something that never fully resolved. Something that didn't leave. It just changed form. You lean back slowly. And the final layer of this chapter settles in. It doesn't show up in what you remember. It shows up in how you move. And that's why you don't see it. Because you're not looking for it there. At some point, you stop talking about it. Not all at once. Not as a clear decision. It just happened. You brought it up less. Thought about it less. Engaged with it less. Until eventually, it stopped coming up at all. And that felt like something. Like distance. Like progress. Like you were finally moving on. Because before, it was present. Active. Easy to access. You could feel it. Name it. Point to it. But now, it's quiet. And quiet feels like healing. Quiet feels like resolution. Quiet feels like it's over. You sit there. And the assumption settles in naturally, if it's not showing up anymore, it must be gone. If I don't feel it the same way, it must not be affecting me. If I'm not talking about it, it must not matter anymore. And all of that feels true. Because visibility is gone. The noise is gone. The obvious signs are gone. So it must have changed. But it didn't. Not in the way that matters. You lean back slightly. And the distinction becomes clearer. Silence is not resolution. Silence is containment. That line lands differently. Because containment looks like control. It looks like stability. It looks like you're handling it. But containment doesn't remove anything. It holds it in place. Keeps it from surfacing. Keeps it from expanding. Keeps it from becoming visible again. You sit there. And the mechanism becomes clearer. You didn't process it. You disengaged from it. You stopped activating it. You stopped going into it. You stopped letting it come up. And that created quiet. But quiet isn't the same as resolved. It's just inactive. Temporarily. You lean forward slightly. And the tension sharpens. Because now the question shifts. It's no longer, is it still showing up? It becomes, is it still there even when I'm not engaging with it? And the answer is yes. Because silence doesn't change what something is. It changes how often you come into contact with it. That's all. You sit there. And another layer becomes visible. Disengagement feels like release. But it isn't. Because release means something has completed. Something has moved through. Something has resolved. Disengagement just means you stepped away. You stopped interacting. You stopped going into it. But it's still there. Unchanged. Unprocessed. Unmoved. You lean back slowly. And the pattern becomes undeniable. You didn't move through it. You moved around it. That line lands hard. Because it reframes everything. You didn't confront it. You didn't complete it. You didn't allow it to fully exist and pass. You found a way to function without touching it. And that worked. On the surface. You can live your life. Go through your day. Be okay. Without it interrupting everything. Without it dominating your thoughts. Without it being obvious. But underneath, nothing actually changed. You sit there longer. And now the cost becomes clearer. Because what you avoided didn't disappear. It just stayed in place. Waiting. Not actively. Not loudly. But still there. Still part of your system. You lean forward again. And the next layer becomes harder to ignore. Time didn't fix it. Time made it quieter. That's the difference. Because time reduces intensity. It softens the edges. It lowers the frequency. But it doesn't complete what was never processed. It doesn't resolve what was never allowed to move. It just creates distance. From the surface. Not from the structure. You sit there. And the illusion becomes clearer. It feels like it's gone, because it's not visible. It feels like it's resolved, because it's not loud. It feels like it's over, because it's not active in the same way. But none of that means it changed. It just means you stopped engaging with it. You lean back slowly. And the truth settles deeper. Silence didn't heal it. Silence hid it. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a way you can point to. In a subtle one. Where it blends into everything else. Where it becomes harder to separate. Harder to see. Harder to question. You sit there. And now the system becomes undeniable. Because even though it's quiet, it's still active. In how you respond. In how you interpret. In how you move through things. In how you protect yourself. You don't feel it directly. But you live from it. And that's the difference. Between something that's gone, and something that's just contained. You lean forward slightly. And the final layer of this chapter settles in. Silence didn't end it. It just made it harder to see. By now, you can see the silence. You can see the containment. You can see how something stayed in place while everything around it moved on. And once you see that, something else becomes harder to ignore. Time didn't fix it. Time made it quieter. That's the difference. Because time changes how something feels. Not what it is. It reduces intensity. It softens the edges. It lowers how often it comes up. It makes it less immediate. Less obvious. Less disruptive. And that looks like progress. It feels like distance. It feels like something is fading. Something is resolving. Something is finally going away. But it's not. Not in the way that matters. You sit there. And the pattern becomes clearer. Time works on the surface. On how often something shows up. On how loud it feels. On how visible it is. But it doesn't work on structure. It doesn't change what was never processed. It doesn't complete what was never allowed to move. It doesn't resolve what was avoided. It just makes it less noticeable. You lean back slightly. And the next layer becomes undeniable. The longer something stays quiet, the more you assume it's gone. Because you don't feel it the same way. You don't think about it the same way. You don't interact with it the same way. So it must have changed. It must have resolved. It must have become less important. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. But nothing actually moved. Nothing actually completed. Nothing actually left. You sit there. And another layer becomes visible. Time doesn't resolve what you avoid. It just integrates it. That line lands deeper. Because now, it's not just something sitting in the background. It's something that has merged into your system. Into your responses. Into your patterns. Into how you move through things without thinking about it. You lean forward slightly. And the mechanism sharpens. You didn't process it. You adapted around it. You built ways to function without touching it. Ways to move forward without reopening it. Ways to navigate your life while keeping that part contained. And those adaptations worked. They allowed you to keep going. To not be overwhelmed. To not be pulled back constantly. To not feel it the way you used to. But they came with something else. They became part of you. You sit there longer. And the cost becomes clearer. Because what you built to avoid it, didn't just stay isolated. It spread. Into other areas. Other situations. Other parts of your life. The way you hesitate. The way you interpret things. The way you protect yourself. The way you limit what you show. The way you hold back before something even happens. All of that comes from something. Something that didn't resolve. Something that didn't complete. Something that stayed. You lean back slowly. And another realization settles in. What feels like personality is often pattern. That line lands quietly. Because it doesn't feel obvious. It doesn't feel like something separate. It feels like you. Your instincts. Your habits. Your way of being. But part of that isn't original. It's constructed. Built in response to something you never fully processed. You sit there. And the system becomes harder to ignore. Because now, it's not just about what happened. It's about what it became. It became the way you approach situations, read people, respond to uncertainty, protect yourself, limit exposure, manage risk, and because it's integrated, it doesn't stand out. It doesn't feel like something external. It feels like your baseline. Your default. Your normal. You lean forward again. And the weight of that becomes undeniable. You're not carrying something separate. You're operating from it. And that's why time didn't fix it. Because it didn't stay something you carry. It became something you are. In small ways. Subtle ways. Ways that don't call attention to themselves. Ways that feel natural. You sit there longer. And now the final layer becomes clear. Time doesn't resolve what you avoid. It just makes it harder to recognize what's actually shaping you. You lean back slowly. And the truth settles in. It didn't fade. It adapted. It didn't leave. It integrated. And now, it's part of how you move without you realizing why. Nothing announces this. There's no moment where it clearly shows itself again. No obvious return. No sudden realization that everything you thought was over, isn't. It doesn't come back like that. Because it never left. You sit there. And everything looks normal. Your life moves. You function. You go through your day without anything pulling you back. Without anything forcing you to revisit it. Without anything making it obvious that something is still there. And that's exactly why it stays hidden. Because you're not looking for it anymore. You're not engaging with it. You're not activating it. You're not going into it. So there's nothing to notice. Nothing to question. Nothing to examine. It just runs. Quietly. Underneath everything. You sit with that. And the shift becomes clearer. It doesn't need your attention to affect you. It doesn't need to be visible to be active. It doesn't need to be remembered to still shape how you move. You've already seen that. In the hesitation. In the interpretation. In the protection. In the way you respond before you fully processed what's happening. And now, it's not about discovering that. It's about what you do with it. You lean back slightly. And the moment becomes more precise. Because now you can feel it. The exact point where something happens, and something in you moves before you decide. The early shift. The automatic response. The place where your system steps in. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough to guide what happens next. You sit there. And for a long time, that moment didn't exist. There was no gap. No space. Just reaction. Now, there is. Small. But real. Enough to see it. Enough to notice, this is happening before I choose it. And that changes everything. Because now, it's not invisible anymore. It's not something you can say you didn't see. You can feel the hesitation form. You can feel the pull to hold back. You can feel the shift in how you interpret something. Before you follow it. And that's where this actually is now. Not in the past. Not in what happened. In that moment. Right there. You sit with it. And your system does what it always does. It moves in. To adjust. To soften. To protect. To keep everything within a certain range. To keep you safe. To keep things controlled. To keep things from going too far. And it works. It always has. That's why it's still there. You lean forward slightly. And the tension sharpens. Because now you're not unaware. You're not reacting blindly. You're watching it happen. And deciding whether to follow it. Or not. You can let it guide you. Let it shape what you say. What you feel. What you do. Let it keep everything contained. Predictable. Controlled. Or, you can pause. Not stop it completely. Not force something different. Just, not immediately follow it. And that pause, is unfamiliar. Because it removes the automatic path. It removes the default. It removes the version of you that just responds the way you've always responded. You sit there. And the moment stretches. Because now, nothing is pushing you. Nothing is forcing a reaction. Nothing is making the choice for you. It's just there. And what you do with it. You don't need to go back. You don't need to revisit anything. You don't need to relive it. You don't need to figure it out. You don't need to turn it into a story again. It's already here. In how you respond. In how you move. In how you hold back. In how you protect yourself. You lean back slowly. And the truth settles in. You're not over it. You're still living from it. That line lands clean. No explanation needed. Because you can feel it. Right there. In that moment before you react. You sit there. And nothing changes immediately. There's no instant shift. No sudden release. No moment where everything resets. Because this was never about one moment. It was about a pattern. And patterns don't disappear. They get interrupted. One moment at a time. You lean forward again. And the final layer settles in. It's not about going back and fixing what happened. It's not about reprocessing everything. It's not about forcing something to move. It's about what happens now. When the same pattern shows up. And whether you continue it. Or not. You sit there. And the space is quiet. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. Just that small gap. And your awareness of it. You don't need more time. You don't need more distance. You don't need more silence. You need to see what's already happening. And decide if you're going to keep living from it. Or start moving differently. Not perfectly. Not all at once. Just, differently. You lean back slowly. And the final line settles in. It's still there. You just stopped looking.